Please check out our sponsors NordVPN for the best in online security. It's the best VPN on the market, and you can try it risk-free now with a 30-day money-back guarantee by visiting nordvpn.com/heart and hand. That's nordvpn.com/heart and hand, and it's risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Hello everyone and welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. My name is David Edgar and I am your host as always, and joining me this week to discuss a fine game of football with the right result, thankfully, is David Graham. Hello Davey.
Davey, good afternoon. Good afternoon, listeners. And it's a very pleasant and a happy Monday.
It really is. Rangers, of course, going into that top of the table clash with Hearts, as I'm legally required to call it, but it was first taking on second. Hearts with a chance to take the gap to 8 points, which, well, not insurmountable, would certainly have been a bit of a mountain to climb. Rangers with a chance to cut it to 2, which we did successfully with, I think it's fair to say, Davey, the best overall performance of the Danny Rule era so far. There's been good results, but I thought this was the best performance.
Yeah, I think if we're being honest, it was the best performance that we've seen at Ibrox in actually a very long time, which probably shows us and highlights where we have came from in recent times. So, yeah, it was one of those games that was very enjoyable, probably for the neutral, and particularly enjoyable if you were on the good half of Glasgow.
Yeah, I want to speak about that first. Before we get into the game, we will talk about the game, obviously, in a lot of detail. There's a lot happening in it. It was a proper game of football. There was quality in the goals. There was blood and thunder. Two teams going out for a win, which was refreshing to see. And Rangers coming out, I thought, by a distance, really, the better side in that match. But it's been... If you've been on social media, you'll have seen accounts all around, well, the world really, but particularly the UK, commenting on the atmosphere. And I thought it was pretty telling because clearly Rangers have been kind of pushing the last few weeks, you know, to get people in there. And the place was packed yesterday. You couldn't get a ticket. The amount of spares I got asked for a home game that wasn't an Old Firm match was remarkable. And the atmosphere built and grew. And I think it was a very British football atmosphere, and it wasn't just, you know, noise for 90 minutes. It ebbed and flowed with the game, and when that happens and it builds up, you get what you got in the second half yesterday. You know, Hearts fans played their part as well, and it one of those games yesterday was just a pleasure to be at. The noise was at times just surging, and you just felt this feels like the centre of the whole world right now.
Yeah, I think it. Look, this is a Rangers podcast, so we try not to talk about other teams, but it probably in many ways showed the positivity of what Hearts have done this year in terms of actually kind of creating a proper title race, particularly one that doesn't just involve us and the dark side. So, yeah, it was. I hate the cliche, but it was a great advertisement for Scottish football, wasn't it? And I think one thing, setting aside the obvious quality gap with the Premier League, you know, even in kind of proper derbies in inverted commas now, North London or even kind of the Northeast derby, it's greatly sanitised in comparison to what it once was. So to actually see, as you say, a kind of proper, almost old school game of British football yesterday was pleasing on the eye, and particularly pleasing the fact that we come out on top.
Yeah, that's why I quite like watching the English Championship, because there's no VAR. And I find that kind of refreshing as well. But anyway, that's a different thing for a different day. Rangers went into the match. Now, such is the lot of a football manager. This time last week, he was a genius. Thursday morning, he was a fool. And Monday morning, he's a genius again. After, I think, deserved criticism for his team selection at Motherwell. Now, again, a manager will say, well, there's stuff that you don't really know about. Ryan Nadiri, for example, wasn't fully fit, etc. But I think he picked the wrong side and he made the wrong substitutions, right? And the proof of the pudding is in the eating, as we always say. And it's, you know, we didn't get the result. So there's going to be criticism. I thought yesterday, if he and the side had a bad night on Wednesday. They had a very good one yesterday. I thought he nailed the team selection. I thought he nailed substitutes, right time, right players, all had an effect. And climaxing, of course, in that victory with that fourth goal created by one of the subs, Gassama, and a brilliant run from the other sub, Diamande, that opened up the space for Chermiti, who may have been before match a selection that had a lot of us scratching our head, but he more than delivered.
Yeah, look, and I think not to be kind of overly defensive of the manager. Ultimately, whoever's in the dugout, Davey, it's also important that the players, whoever the 11 are on the pitch at any given moment, fulfill their duties. And I think yesterday we probably got the likes of Gassama giving us the impact sub that Ant-Man was meant to do on Wednesday night. I think we were much more clinical. And I don't necessarily even mean in front of goal, but I mean just in terms of our overall detail. Tavernier coming on for that last half hour is, and listen again, here's my shout to give Tav another contract, but probably one of the reasons why I think having Tav in the squad is much more beneficial than him being somewhere else. I think, overall, there were questions that were raised regarding Danny Role on Wednesday night. I think some of those questions were certainly answered yesterday. But there's a long, long way to go. But certainly overall, much more positives and much to be proud of, and hopefully much momentum to be built over the next number of weeks and months.
Yeah, at the end of the day, managers can set up the tactics. They can tell the players what to do. If they don't do their jobs, and if they don't play with the kind of verve that we require. And I think that is, for me, the thing about this Rangers team, the worry, is that sometimes they lack that tempo. When Rangers play a tempo, and they did yesterday, and it was a big game, and that's fine. You're going to get pushed on by the crowd and the opposition are bang up for it, etc. It's the games where the opposition sit back and say, "We'll let you have the ball in your own half between your centre backs and your defenders." I think Rangers and your midfielders. I think Rangers can get caught in just safely retaining possession and not taking any risks. And those are the games you need to kind of grab by the scruff of the neck. I thought Rangers started pretty well yesterday, David, and then made a mistake. I mean, there's zero doubt about it. Again, it's that making passes for the sake of passes when nothing's really on. And the big man, Fernandez, comes out with the ball. He starts a pass to Nico Raskan. Now, I've seen some debate about whose fault this is. I think they're both kind of at fault, because Fernandez should be looking as to where Nico is, but Nico turns his back on it, which I think is a mistake on his part. I think both of them really, it's a breakdown in communication, obviously, and Hearts were ruthless. I mean, one thing about this Hearts team is, if you look at the stats, etc., they're very, very clinical. They don't need an awful lot of chances to score goals. And Leonard, who Adam had been raving about as a player, actually, and I thought he was impressive yesterday, seized on it. And look, there's still a lot to do for them. They play the 1-2, they work it really well, because Rangers are expecting him to go straight to make the run straight into the 6-yard box to get on the end of the return. He doesn't. What he does is he holds back. And that's what foxes the Rangers defence and gives them the space. It's very clever. And then the finish is top drawer. Butland, no chance.
Well, look, I think that is the biggest flaw and weakness in Manny Fernandez's game. It's quite obvious that in a regular run of Old Firms fairly recently, and I can't remember who it was because I kind of blank a lot of that out, but there was one centre half of theirs who we allowed to have the ball and then close down the other one because I think it was Scales. Yeah, it was Scales and Conor Vickers. That sound something similar. Just basically leave the ball with Scales because he'll probably balls it up and
you don't want. Carter Vickers can pass, so you press him, correct, but you let Scales have the ball.
So I think that Suter's distribution, and I think Suter's eye for a pass is positive. I think he's good with the ball at his feet. I'm happy to debate that with anyone in the comments. Fernandez is not. He's more of an old school kind of defender, siege type mentality. Nico Raskin, that's probably one of the biggest weaknesses in terms of his his passing, or dare I say lack of passing ability. So it was probably two weaknesses rolled up to make an absolute disaster, which Hearts put to bed. So yeah, that's what I've always said. If yesterday was far from perfect, and I'm sure we'll get into it, there are certainly question marks that remain, and I think there are probably two of them summed up in one move.
Yeah, Raskin in the first half I thought was really poor. Gave the ball away constantly and not difficult passes. And I think that, he came on to a game second half, to be fair to him, but the first half I thought that we were getting transitioned on, countering as we used to call it, a lot. And a lot of it came from him giving the ball away when he was under no pressure in the middle of the park. But Rangers responded. And one thing I liked, by the way, yesterday, I mean, I liked the crowd a lot yesterday, as you can probably tell, listeners, by the fact I mentioned it now twice. But when the goal went in, there was the, for fuck's sake. But then the big defiant roar, which, says to players, right, okay, come on. And they responded to that. And they go up the park a few minutes later, cause chaos in the box. Now, to Romans, early days, but the boy looks a player. Works a brilliant 1-2 on the left, delivers the ball at the back post. Now, here's where the selection matters. Nadiri and Chermiti being there. Chermiti gets the header in, and great save, by the way, from the keeper. But there's Mikey Moore to get the rebound. When it comes back off the bar, and it is still a mistake by Steinweiler, he should clear it, right? Fair enough. But Nadiri's there pressuring him. That doesn't happen if you've only got Chermiti or one striker there, and you see the benefits of that. And when that goal went in, suddenly there was a real surge of excitement round the ground, and you really heard that. But it came from Rangers getting it, which we were good at yesterday, getting men in the box, having extra men in there, causing a bit of chaos.
Hell of a finish from the lad, wasn't it, as well?
I mean, at first I thought Nadiri must have put it in because it goes right into the roof of the net.
I think roof of the net, cracking finish, pal. No, I think it's almost. I think it was Walter that sort of coined the rough phrase of, like when you're defending a set piece, defending a corner, you've all of 11 men in the box because someone's sitting in the at the halfway lines doing bugger all defence. And I think it's the same where the more bodies you've got in the box, the more chance you have of creating either assists or goals or, as you say, a general sort of chaos. And I think you're right where. Also, and I'm sure we'll have a section on Chermiti, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But I think Chermiti and Big Nadiri there are physical. They're proper kind of like almost. If my good friend Alan from Bangor's listening, where he likened Chermiti to Hateley yesterday, I told him just listen, I get carried away, Alan. But they are more of the kind of Hateley-esque physical profile than they are the kind of McCoys. So having bodies in there when mayhem does happen is a difficult thing and scenario to defend for Hearts, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it was a different thing, different challenge, absolutely. And then a few minutes later, Hearts score a very good goal. The manager said it's a gift, and it is. Suter should not be getting out-muscled by Claudio Braga. Now, it's a fantastic header for me. He's a really good player, Claudio Braga. They'll make a fortune on him. But Suter's got to do better there.
Oh yeah, geez, very, very much so, and like it's very poor from Suter.
He knows it. You see it instantly. He knows.
Yeah, I just think that there are times where, and I've said this regularly about the likes of Jack Butland. There are times where with John Suter, you think, do you know what? We've done really well to have a player of that level in our team. Then there are other moments like yesterday where you're kind of thinking, right, okay, maybe that's there's the reason. And I think probably, he was exposed there yesterday. I think it was almost just a lack of like kind of athleticism, wasn't it? Where he's literally out jumped even by someone who's smaller in height and is
out wrestled and out jumped.
Out wrestled, out jumped. And it's almost one of those things where, no matter what you plan for and no matter how many hours you do in the gym and how much tactical and technical, a lot of it just comes down to having that little bit of kind of extra like dog in the fight, doesn't it? And it was a disappointing goal. You're maybe not so much kind of shining a light on Jack Butland, but you're maybe just wondering, is he definitely in the right position? But I think in fairness to Butland, he's probably thinking Suter will win that duel, or at least not lose it as badly as he did.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think though the quality of the header, he's put it right, looped up perfectly into a corner. Like I say, he's a really good player, Claudio Braga. And, you can, it just proves, by the way, when people say, why are you buying for the German third division? What did he come from, like the second division in Norway or something? There's good players out there. You just need to find them. And again, though, Rangers came back and got the second goal. And this was a lovely finish from Yusuf Chermiti. Shot, blocked. Watch it back, folks. The touch he takes with his left foot to bring it onto his right, he just kills it stone dead and knocks it perfectly for his right foot. It's a really good, clever touch. A lot of players that would get away from at that point because it's coming back at some speed and lashed at home. It's 2 each. Counterintuitively, David, the fact that this Rangers team had come back twice after questions about their mentality in their bottle, I actually think gave the players and the supporters a shitload of confidence. And it's strange, it's 2 each at half time, right? But had Rangers taken the lead twice and been pegged back, I think it's a different feel to that second half.
Yeah, I think that footwork and finish almost reminded me of like a kind of Jermaine Defoe-esque goal. The little bit of him kind of rolling around the floor before, like he had been shot, then kind of getting up to put together that lovely finish, to then sort of limp his way through a celebration I didn't quite get. And I think it does probably raise a few question marks still over him. But in terms of a finish, it was as good as you'll see anywhere yesterday in any league.
Yeah, I mean, a terrific bit of play. And then, God, how often do we say it? Confidence. Different player. Almost immediately, Hearts players running with the ball in our half. Chermiti runs 60 yards, wins the ball cleanly and starts an attack. He wasn't doing that before. Just the buzz, the energy from getting that goal. Second half started, and then I thought Rangers came into our own. I thought we were the better team in the first half, but I don't think there's any doubt about it in the second. I thought Rangers were superb. Now, Scott Olsen booked for a dive in the first half. Haven't seen it back. I don't think it's a penalty, but I don't think it's a dive.
No, I don't think it's either. I don't think it's either at all.
I don't think it's binary in these situations. I don't think it always has to be one or the other.
Well, this is the thing that annoys me, and again, our regular general rant about officials indulge me for a moment, but it raises that question mark over, had that been outside the box. Now you can say Scott Olsen mightn't go down as easy because he's not going to be playing for a penalty, but if he goes down, the ref probably just waves it, play on, get off it. It's the fact, Robertson loves it. It's the fact it looks like he's taking pleasure. Oh yeah, yellow card, the Rangers. But maybe that's just my blue-tinted paranoia. But in reality, it's a nothing incident. That's just all move on, where lives done,
Yeah, no, I thought that. I thought it was contact. It's not a penalty, but nor is it a yellow card. He answered any critics, though, with a sublime cross for the. Now, I loved this goal so much. There's a nice move before it. If you're only seeing it in clip form, folks, or highlights, it probably doesn't show the whole thing. But Rangers work and move the ball really well. We've got Hearts running all over the place. To the point, I was Stephen Harrigan was at the game with me yesterday for Heart and Hand, and Stevie said to me, he said, the Hearts are struggling here because we're moving the ball quickly. And they're having to work very hard. They're having to work very hard just to, keep us out. And then this is just brilliant. Again, 2 strikers in the box means that the centre halves can't concentrate on one. Superb ball in, great run, and the header, he gets some height on this. I just thought it was a brilliant goal. And also directing the header, the near post when the keeper thinks it's going far post, just brilliant.
Yeah, it was right in front of the Copeland end as well. It was just all in all, a really good goal. And actually, when you look back up to the build-up play as well, we've been really patient, haven't we? Because that, I wouldn't underestimate how much of that intricate work coming off the training field either. So it just shows what a bit of belief, bit of character, and a bit of repetition can do to get a team firing and go in the right direction.
I think it's intent. Like the second half, we were knocking the ball about, right? But probing, stretching them, making them turn, getting in behind the fullbacks. that's fine. Possession when you're just playing in front of a team, that doesn't tire them out. They don't need to move. They don't need to go out their shape. The second half, I think, showed. Hearts then, tried to come out a little bit at us, chasing the game, as you might imagine. But Jack Butland doesn't have an awful lot to do. I thought Rangers defended pretty stoutly, and I think a big part of that is Tochi Chukwueze, who's been very impressive, I think, since he came in, David. But I thought yesterday, he wins so many loose balls and so many second balls, and he does it quickly as well. He's like a ball hoover in the middle of the park. He's really athletic as well. He moves forward. He looks a real intelligent player.
Yeah, I liked the big lad yesterday. Hopefully we get a bonus when we win the league and he can get another sleeve. Obviously he can just afford one at the minute. If anyone else has noticed his questionable dress sense, only beaten by I think Giga's leggings, which is a podcast in itself. But look, I'm going to make a point where I don't want to sound negative. This is actually a compliment, but given the circumstances of yesterday, going down at home, big crowd, noisy crowd, the players seem to really kind of thrive in that, and the players seem to really be kind of that extra kind of edge and push, and maybe maybe a shout out to kind of the media and marketing team to say that the full house for the full 90, full voice is starting to is paying off. It probably though does raise a wider conversation and concern around Easter Road and Fir Park in that we are heading towards Livingston. I can't remember who sponsors Livingston this month, but it is positive to see how the players react to a noisy, vociferous Ibrox, because there's hopefully going to be a noisy, vociferous Ibrox for two Old Firms and an Aberdeen game in March. So that's a real positive. What I would say, just to try to get a bit of balance for the likes of Chukwueze there, I think it suits him in a game where he is doing that kind of Hoover role rather than maybe having to kind of make things happen with the ball. And that maybe does raise a wider issue when I think Raskin quite enjoys that kind of breaker up type role as well, which maybe raises a wider question as to where is the kind of, I hate to use the cliche of, the key to unlock the door, but that's maybe just kind of wider conversations for where we are as a squad and what we kind of need moving forward,
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that you can see that this Rangers team is not the finished article, but I do think it's moving that to the right place. I think that you can see progress, and that for me is absolutely key. It's really important that the side, I think we'll add. Well, of course we will add. We'll add people into the squad come the summer, and then we'll be improved again. Game is obviously nervy, and look, I don't. When people say, the nerves, they can affect the players. Well, yeah, they can, right? But it's reality, right? People are nervous. It's 3-2 in a title race, right? We've surrendered a late goal the other night. Of course, there's going to be nerves. But there was also a lot of very loud backing. And then we're now, you mentioned earlier Gassama. Two things about Gassama. Right now, I think he's much more useful to us as an impact sub coming on when teams are tired. And secondly, on the left all the time. It doesn't work when he's on the right. He doesn't look comfortable and he doesn't produce much. That's what he does on the left. Gets the ball inside his own half. Brilliant run. Taking advantage of tired defenders, guys on a booking that can't make a tackle. And then he picked, we talk about decision making with Rangers a lot, and it's understandable. He slips the ball to the big man, full of confidence, takes a touch, knows exactly what he wants to do. And I mentioned this yesterday in our coverage for the game, Davey. That is the difference confidence makes, because sometimes the ball goes to Chermiti and you can see he's got 1,000 thoughts going through his head, right? And he ends up sort of doing neither. Like, what will I do here? That one, he knew exactly. Before the ball arrives, he knows what he wants to do with it. And you see the confidence and the certainty in the finish. Deserved hat-trick, absolutely terrific. And Ibrox went barmy.
And look, one wider point that I think needs to be said regarding character, and regarding bounce back ability, penned by Ian Dowie, am I right in saying, Davey, listeners, wasn't it?
What's that?
Bounce back ability.
That's an Ian Dowie, yeah. He
Yeah, it
invented
is
that.
Ian Dowie, yeah. I think that I remember a conversation that myself and Martin Ramsey had with Scott Orfield, actually. And I remember we were talking about like moments where, infamous trips to Dubai or infamous sort of like winter breaks where, we do well in old firms, we win old firms, we then go off on a break, and then essentially the season just sort of began to unravel. And I remember we were sort of saying to Scott, like, well, like what kind of happened? And he sort of said, well, like Celtic just kept winning, didn't it? And that, that, I mean, fact, but I mean, that quote did run through my head yesterday, particularly, just before kickoff, given the circumstances of their match. Then when you go, 1-0 down, and then, when you go 2-1 down, it is easy to kind of see where we have been before, whether that is
Absolutely.
a lack of kind of mental belief in yourself or mental belief throughout the squad, or bluntly, and something that clearly didn't happen with the last manager was belief in him, whoever's in the dugout and their staff, that they can do something and help something get, or help us get through a scenario, a situation, a moment. The fact that we were able to, leave the stadium in such high voice yesterday is a credit to the players, particularly. And listen, there will be many ebbs and flows. I mean, let's not mistake Wednesday night of last week, where again, and look, we're all looking at other results. We're in a title race. There's no shame in that. Where you go for a situation where literally there's something like a 4-point swing within a matter of minutes between the Livingston game and the and ourselves against Motherwell. So it was really a positive response given last Wednesday night, given everything that happened across the country yesterday. And listen, there's going to be many, many more moments like that. But look, you'd have bitten your hand off for that after how certainly I felt 10 o'clock on Wednesday night,
Yeah, exactly. I, as you know, right, in our various chat groups and stuff, I don't tend to get too up or down about Celtic results. I like it when they lose, obviously, because it's good for us. But the reason for that is that we've got no agency in that. We can't affect in any way what happens when Celtic are not playing us. We had agency in the game yesterday. We have agency when we play Celtic. And for me, if you stamp your authority in these games, then that's when you get that belief that you talked about. So for me, that's kind of the next step to make sure that we go on and deliver on the potential, the promise that we have for this season.
Oh, look, David, the last thing I'll say on this, it's all the cliches, but you control the controllable. You manage what you can manage. We all we can do is win as many games as we can across the rest of the season and give ourselves a fighting chance, because I don't want to look too far ahead, but there are many, many challenges and hurdles, particularly knowing how the split fixtures will work. So look, cliche, but one game is at a time. Next game is the biggest game, and look, there's more than enough highs and lows to come this season that we'll have plenty to talk about, I'm sure.
Heart and Hand is delighted to be sponsored this year by the Rangers Youth Development Company. We're very, very proud of this. And profit from their products helps support the Rangers Youth Programme. Congratulations, by the way, to Kenneth Cooper, who won RYDC's latest Big Blue Jackpot prize of £16,290 recently. Over 18s, obviously, you need to be to play this, and you can be a winner like Kenneth and so many other Rangers fans very soon. The more tickets sold, the bigger the prize will be, and all the profit goes to the Rangers Academy. RYDC have donated more than £12.5 million to date to Rangers Youth Development. So visit www.rydc.co.uk. That's rydc.co.uk for full details on the products, and we'll put the links in the show description today. And please do this, because Davey, you know how hard Colin works with the RYDC, and the stuff they do is, over the last 20 years, there's been times at Rangers, there's been stuff that's been frustrating. The RYDC isn't one of them. They do a great job, but they need our support.
Oh, look, Colin Stewart is out of everyone that I had the privilege of meeting, either before my time at Rangers, during my time at Rangers, and since. If there's anyone deserves a knighthood for his dedication to the club and the cause, he is an absolute gentleman, a 10 out of 10. I suspect and I hope he is a listener. So happy Monday, Colin, if you are listening. But no, I can't speak highly enough of the this particular cause, and we should all get behind it as best we can.
Yes, and before anyone asks, yes, I do play it, unsuccessfully so far, but you never know. You've got to be in it to win it. So, people say if you won the money, would you donate it back? And I'd like to have that dilemma before it before it comes in. So Rangers get this victory, Davey. We now head into a less fraught period where it's no midweek games, and we have a week to recover. We have a week, to get everybody reset and whatnot. You got to pick your strongest team, injury dependent, obviously, but I think this Rangers team are much better, in my eyes, when you've got the new lads in it than when you haven't. And I think the evidence of the last month sort of suggests that.
Well, look, let me take it back a step. Throughout January, when we were talking about like what we needed and the pressure on the recruitment team and things, like we all agreed. I know you and I particularly agreed, Davey, to say, look, whether we need 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new signings, whatever that number was, those new signings needed to be players who could walk straight into our side and improve what we had already. So we've gone back to winter windows where we were bringing in a James Sands who was a project, as a Kowski who was a right back who now is banging in goals.
That was a forward, huh?
Yeah, it's at Bundesliga 2 or something. We have at times gone right kind of back to various windows in the winter, brought in players who were, we're signing him for next season. We, given that where we started this season, in my view, had to sign players who were coming in to start and make an improvement now. That's probably why there was a bit of a question mark over the sort of Nadiri signing, given how much the level he was coming from, etc., etc. So, like, for me now, you're right. It is really positive that everyone, particularly like a Romans there, having spoken about how much I really liked him yesterday. Like, there's a really good player there now. There's massive potential, and hopefully he's someone that can contribute heavily, and then we sail on for a significant fee. But in reality, this squad will still be tested. I think there are undoubted question marks over Sterling's ability to put through a run of games.
Yeah, fair.
I think he's crucial. I still maintain that Tav has a really important role to play and needs to be managed correctly. So there are many twists and turns, and I think that certainly I am pleased to be proven wrong. And don't get me wrong, Shanklin's injury has probably helped this, but I was quite convinced out of the 3 teams in the title race up to the end of December, I was convinced that Hearts were the team who I would have had most faith in to recruit well for a title run-in. But we certainly have, and don't get me wrong, we've spent money for it. It's not as if we've kind of, found hidden gems out the sort of, the pitch opposite Ibrox kicking about for 5-a-side. So, these are players that we've paid money for, significant money for, but we certainly have given ourselves we cannot criticise the board for not giving ourselves a fighting chance to win this league. Whether we do or not will remain to be seen, but certainly I think we're in a much better position than we were a month ago.
It's quite a pleasant sensation to have a window and go, yeah, I quite like these players that have come in.
I can't remember the last one.
Exactly. So it's quite
before?
to be calling for all of them to go into the side, But I think that it's because they're bringing things that we maybe lack. You've got with Romans that raw physicality. I mean, I think McGomez is a decent season, but I think with him you get that, the power as well, and can go inside, can go outside. Chukwani mentioned earlier, Nadiri, I like his work rate, and I do think goals will come from him. I think he also helps the other forward that he's up with. Scott Olsen, slowish start, let's be fair, but showing yesterday that bit of quality at the key moment, which is exactly what he was brought in to do. And that's the thing, David, about Rangers, why I'm quietly confident for this season, but certainly for the next few, is I think we're getting better. And I don't think you can say that for the other sides, right? That might not be enough this year. I absolutely understand that. But I look at this and I think this side is going to be better next year, especially with a few additions, than it is this year. And I haven't felt like that for a while with the Rangers team.
Well, I think if you go back to kind of our last purple patch, so to speak, if you look at the team where, let's say the team that won the league 55, there were players who we all knew were almost kind of, they were in the, I don't want to say the farewell tours, but we were getting more than you maybe would have expected to get out of them at that stage in their career, i.e. McGregor, Davis, Defoe, even the likes of Orfield. There wasn't that same forward thinking positivity to say there is a player who, if he is still in our squad in 2 to 3 seasons, he is even potentially going to be better than he is now, i.e. Romans, even the likes of Jack Butland, age profile still works for a goalkeeper. There's probably only really Tavernier who you would say isn't in theory going to be around for the next 2 to 3 seasons. Now listen, there'll be a lot of changes, ins and outs, one thing and another, but you're right, there's much more football to come out of even the likes of their Chermides of this world, because age is on their side. So if anything, that maybe does raise a wider question of do we have enough sort of experience and guile in the team to get us across the line? Hopefully, but that's maybe a point for discussion as the weeks move on,
No, definitely. And I think as well that it is a title race. And I mean, I had people tweeting me yesterday when the first goal went in saying, that's it, I knew that's the league gone, bottlers. It'll be up and down. You have to understand that. It'd be great if Rangers were going to win the next 11 matches 4-0, going 3 up inside the first 20 minutes. It would be absolutely lovely. It's not going to happen. I'll tell you that right now. It's not going to happen. And I think that all 3 teams will drop points. I think all we can do is very much the cliche, take it one game at a time. With Livy away next week, that plastic pitch, yes, but against a sticky, tough opposition, they're fighting because they're down the bottom of the league, but they are down the bottom of the league for a reason. Rangers should go there, get that victory, and then, and only then, do we look ahead to the next one.
Yeah, look, I think we can only look past or look to the next game, because there is absolutely no point starting to fret over, what are the split fixtures going to look like and when are they going to look. Let's just be really mindful that we need to be, in my view, and I'm just kind of putting this out here, we need to have a really, really good March, because we need to be at least where we are now, if not in a better position pre-split, and there's a lot of football to be played. That's before you get into cups and various things. So let's certainly be mindful of the cliche of one game at a time.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's an exciting time for Rangers, folks. It's an exciting time for all of us. And if you want to hear much more and in more detail about Rangers and our push for this title, then go to Heart and Hand on Patreon, which is patreon.com/Heart and Hand. Right then, I'd just like to thank our producers, Mike Lee and Paul Miles, and to thank my guest today, the ever wonderful Mr. David Graham.
Pleasure, Davey. Pleasure, listeners. As I said, not only if several months ago you'd said we would be having conversations like this, I think I would have gladly been put in a straitjacket and sectioned. So that is the beauty and the joy of supporting the famous Glasgow Rangers.
Yeah, and bad day Wednesday, good day Sunday. That's let's hope that there's a lot more good days than bad days coming up if we want to win this title. But just about keeping on an even keel as much as is humanly possible. I must admit, if you see me during the 90 minutes, you would think, what a hypocrite telling us to stay calm. But hey, I'm nearly 50. It's I'm not going to change now. That's just who I am. Thank you very, very much for joining us, folks. We'll be back next week. Cam will be here on Thursday, though, looking ahead to the Livy match. Until then, take care.